My name is Kristin Slink. I am the founder of TmrO App. I am a woman of today, and this is how I'm positioning myself for tomorrow. Welcome, Kristin.
Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here today.
First of all, let me just give you your props because you definitely were the first one to be like, you should do a podcast for TmrO.
Yes.
And that was like a year ago.
It
Really?
was,
Yeah.
I was on this walk. I think I called you randomly, and I'm like, girl, you need a podcast.
Yeah. Because, okay, so just so you know, I met Kristin. She was my mentor, and she still is. We're just not working in that same capacity. But she's my mentor, and she was the one who really just, I feel like you paved a way for me emotionally to show up in a tech space when I've been a creative my whole life. And the way they paint the tech space, it just doesn't look like me. It doesn't look like any of us really, you know, like, and it's just like, it was intimidating. It was like, okay, once I got to the point of like making other people, trying to get other people to believe in it, because it's one thing, okay, I got my partner to believe in it.
Yep.
And then we got enough, you know, he invested and we were able to start building the product. But then when it's time to take it to market, that's when I got super like intimidated, because you either have to raise money or you have to get other people involved to like buy into it. And that was a super intimidating part. And you were like, yeah, you got this. Like, no big deal. You don't have to. You're like, you don't have to have that business background. You don't have to have that tech background. You don't have to know how to code. And so, yeah, I'm so happy to like full circle moment. The app is growing. We have a podcast.
I know, it's amazing.
She saw the vision before the vision
feel?
was flourishing.
I feel very, very grateful.
Yeah.
I feel empowered. It's built my self-confidence. Like, okay, like you didn't stop when it got crazy. You didn't stop when you didn't believe, like when you were like, when no one believed or no one saw it the way you saw it. And I just kept going and I pushed through, and I'm seeing like I'm seeing how it feels on the other side when it starts to ignite. So they call it like the business is igniting. People are organically, downloading and wanting to be a part and just wanting to be associated. They want the merch. They want to find a project. They just want to be a part of TmrO. And it's like the best feeling ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you glad that you went forward with your idea and got over that fear and that hump of
Absolutely.
keeping it close and actually sharing it with other people?
I'm so happy that I did, because I mean, we wouldn't be here. Like, I just feel like it is like the gateway to so many more things that I'm gonna do. Yeah. And I had to prove to myself that I could get through like the mud and like the hard part, because you have to in anything that you want to see happen. So, but I couldn't have done it I really don't feel like I could have done it without you. You were like a pivotal piece in like me pushing through. So
this is so beautiful.
So
oh my God! And so tell everyone, like tell Milan, update me on Tech as Fuck. Tech AF.
Tech AF it is. I mean, it's sassy for a reason, right?
I love
because
it.
I'm saying something that a lot of people don't say, and it's that you don't have to be technical and you don't have to be a tech bro to start a tech company, right? And at the end of the day, a tech company is essentially a company with a tech product. And so if you are someone like yourself, right, TmrO is by creatives, built for creatives. Yeah. You came from that space. You understood what your target market needed. And I think that is the most important thing, not the fact that you know how to write code or understand what Python or Ruby on Rails means, right? Today, there are so many resources for business owners and founders to be able to build tech and be guided on that journey without having to learn code, go to school, and be the stereotypical tech bro. And so when I was coming up with a brand of how I wanted to come out and make a splash with saying, no, every way that we've been looking at tech entrepreneurship and how we support tech founders is incorrect. We're supporting founders at the wrong part, like the wrong part of the journey. We're supporting founders with money once they've reached all of these different barriers. And additionally, we're supporting and leveling up these founders who are on this pedestal just because they're technical. And at the end of the day, when you look at the data, you look at the returns are higher for women of color, female business owners, right? Not the stereotypical tech guy, because we are building businesses for either problems that we've experienced ourselves or inefficiencies that we see in a market that we come from. We're not doing it to tinker around with tech and be cool and be able to build a tech product. We're building businesses for people like us because they're not going to, because they're not experiencing the world like we are, right?
Wow.
I'm amazed. I don't know how to get into this one. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, but that's so true. It's like, this is not like a hobby. This is not like, there is an issue in the creative space, getting creatives paid, getting them opportunities around the clock, getting them seen. And me and my entrepreneurial spirit, I'm like, let's create a solution. Yeah. Like a real solution for something that came up. And I do see what you mean, like how women come in and we get it done. Like,
we definitely get shit done. Like 100%.
No, 100%.
We wear all the hats, we get creative, we like diversity around us as well. So we're really paying attention to who's in the room with us, right? We're really, like thinking about who we're surrounding ourselves with, who we're working with, and coming into business forming relationships in win-win scenarios, right? A lot of women approach business as, how can you win and how can I win? How can we collaborate together to create a better ecosystem, right? And so you are enabling creatives to find jobs and find ways to make revenue and get paid faster. Yeah. Right, and that's the big thing. Like everything right now, if you look at trends around payments and baking and that sort of thing, is getting paid on the spot. So why not creatives and people that are out there working for themselves, right? Yeah. And having these businesses and saying like, I need the resources, and get paid as a business would as well, right?
Yeah. You always are like badass, because I'm like, when you told me your story, you're like, I was a founder of this, and then I sold it, and then I moved on. I'm like, you sold it?
You sold a company?
How did you do it?
Yeah.
Just back up a little bit.
I technically had 2 acquisitions, so.
Yeah, just tell the people about it, girl, because that's
so the thing about telling your journey is that it's so windy-windy that sometimes you can get caught up in the details, and so I try to keep it really high level. Okay. But then some people just kind of stop me. So grew up on the East Coast in Connecticut, like super rural, like not fancy, like rich area. Like I was on the other side of the tracks, right? So I had always strived to make money, make something of myself. So I've always had this chip on my shoulder to do something. Yeah. And so the first thing that I did was not go to a state school, went as far out of state as my parents would let me, and paid for college mostly on my own through private student loans. And so this is the time where they were giving student loans like candy and not really telling people like myself, 18 years old, fresh out of high school, how financing worked. And so I put myself through college with these student loans, like eked by, was a psychology major, almost went into teaching, learned a lot more about myself than anything else, but graduating being like, that's not what I want to do, like what do I do from here? So ended up moving to California. So went to school in New Hampshire, moved out to California, one-way ticket, like literally was like convinced one of my friends to come with me. Had no house, no car, nowhere to live, like just was making it happen. So that shows you that I like risk a little bit. And this is before like me even understanding that. So first thing I do when I'm in San Diego, get off the plane, I go to Enterprise Rent-A-Car and get a car, and I got talked into a job. So I had always had this idea that business sounds really interesting to me, but growing up, I didn't see women do business. I didn't see a lot of business owners, it was just in small town farms, right? So I never had role models to look after, so therefore never saw myself as a business owner. But I always had this idea about, so Enterprise Rent-A-Car brings you in and they're like, we're gonna teach you how to run a business. So I was like, cool. And the guy who talked me into it was like, and everyone's super young and it's San Diego and like, it's just great. And I'm like, cool. So worked the corporate ladder and ended up like super deep into debt because of those student loans. So as soon as I graduated, making like ends meet, the market just crashed. This is 2007. And like didn't even know if the business was like enterprise was still going to be around. So like eking by, and all of a sudden these student loans that were private became due, had no flexible payment options, and almost had almost went bankrupt.
Wow.
Ended up
They didn't have no
joining
payment
this
options?
program to get me out of debt, got out of debt completely in 3 years by like working, making money,
wow.
working my way through, but had always had the stigma about predatory lending. So I say that because I ended up creating a business to help consumers fall victim to predatory loans.
Well, like predatory lending is when like they're just always trying to get you to sign up for something.
So
borrow
at
their
my time
money.
at Enterprise, long story short, ran into men that basically kept pushing me down and saying, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. I had a couple of side hustles, one of them being I was working with businesses and I would consult them on how to finance their customers. So think you walk into a furniture store, you see this couch, you're like, oh, awesome, the couch, $5,000. And then they say monthly payments of $299, right? You're like, oh, I'll pay $299 for a couch instead of the $5,000. That's consumer finance. So I ended up consulting with these businesses, and while I was consulting with them, I realized they didn't know how to talk about financing options to their customers. Therefore, they were selling them 181% interest rates to buy these couches and these goods, right? So there was no education on the business side. So the business was just offering loans because at the end of the day, they get paid. And then the consumers are going ahead with those loans because they're not being educated about it and they're looking at the monthly payment. So while I was there and recognized this inefficiency, that's really where I quit, took out my 401k and said, I'm gonna do something to solve this problem. Went through a lot of ups and downs with that, a couple of different company names, that sort of thing, but ended up pairing up with these two doctors that wanted to go and build their own fund, helped them build a loan origination platform, so creating the loans. And we got a line of credit from Capital One, and we needed to put some money in from the business side. So we went to go to our partners, and they said, no, we don't want to do that. We're going to buy a house instead. And so we ended up being like, okay, I just quit my job. I'm working, I'm recognizing this problem. What do I do now? So me and another partner of mine left that company and started a consulting business where we would find better loan products and teach those businesses how to educate themselves and their customers about financing options. That was company number one, called First Look Approval. Company number two was when with First Look Approval, we had utilized other people's software and kept running into the issue where it wasn't our lending product, it wasn't our technology product, and we were kind of stuck to how these lenders processed these loans. And this is back about 15 years ago when it was really like paper applications getting faxed into lenders and them reviewing it, super inefficient process. And so we came up with an idea to create our own technology where we would have all these different lenders kind of seamlessly integrated in, where the business would just say, cool, you want a loan? Here's a link. You apply, and then it matches you with the best loan.
Oh, yeah, and that's pretty standard today, right?
So first acquisition was the initial angel investors buying our book of business and basically employing my business partner and I to create this new company called Loan Hero. So Loan Hero was my company that was venture backed, raised $55 million total between debt and equity, built it over 4 years, had a team of 25, and were at one point doing, I think it was $10 million in loans a month.
Oh, wow.
So like really tracking high. And we ran into an issue, and it was all because of the way that we raised money, the investors we worked with, and how they didn't understand our business model. So all of a sudden what happened is we grew our loan volume so much, we started running out of money to lend. And so what we did kind of as a pivot or an iteration is we started looking for other lenders as partners to work with us. One of those conversations quickly turned into, hey, we love your business model that you go through the businesses. We're a personal lender. It's hard for us to get customers. It's really expensive for us to get customers through our channels right now. We're well funded. We want to buy you. So the conversation from partner to keep our business going quickly turned to acquisition, which ended up being a really horrible experience for me.
I remember you kind of telling me that wasn't like the best.
Girl, don't sell your company.
But what I'm hearing is like can you speak more in depth of like, it seems like you always know when or how to like make a pivot, meaning like when something's not right within yourself or what you believe in, or specifically within business, you know when to like take another turn,
I
like
love
how to
that
adapt.
you say that because I would have never put it that way.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm just floundering around. Like
no, but I think within
we
a
do.
time span, I think as much as you've accomplished just within that space, I feel like the average person would have took like 20 more years to figure out like,
Or stopped.
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Well, here's the secret. It's being unemotionally attached to what you're doing. Yeah, if you're emotionally attached to what you're doing, you're going to hold it so much that you're not able to make those pivots. So if you're unemotional to what you're building or what you're putting your creative energy into, you're going to listen to the feedback, your customers, the market a little bit more to be able to know when to pivot, right? When it starts to feel like you're really running up into walls, that's a good time to ask yourself, is there something that I can learn from this? And is there something that I can tweak or adjust
yeah.
to move forward?
And do you feel like that comes naturally just to some versus others? Because I feel like when you first said that, I was like, oh, really? But when I think of myself and how I run my business, I do kind of run it from an unemotional standpoint. And I can, when I interact with people who work through emotion, I can see that. Yeah, I'm like, that's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
So how do you find, because you're also still human, this is also still something that you're very passionate about. How do you find like balance within that of just being like an entrepreneur, a CEO, a business owner, of just knowing
it has taken time, girl.
Yeah.
I mean, first
I'm
and
emotional.
foremost, I had no balance for that first company. I was depressed. I didn't have any friends. I wasn't going out. I wasn't doing anything.
It was
I
just you and your
sat
business.
and built the business, and it was just so. It was draining of me. And so by the time that I sold that business, it was like I sold a piece of me because I was so emotionally attached.
Did you
So
feel like you went through like a grieving process?
I did, 3 years.
Oh, wow.
The 3-year grieving process. So that company, I told you I moved to San Diego, so that's where I built my company. The company we sold to is based here in Atlanta. And so as part of that acquisition, I ended up moving here with my husband and our 2 dogs because we're like, cool, another adventure, that's awesome. Worked with them for about 10 months and it just wasn't a good fit. Like, let's just say I was in the back office, wasn't respected, very loud for a woman within that space, you know, and so it just wasn't a good fit for who I was or the kind of culture or company that I built. And so when I left, I kind of found myself in this place in Atlanta saying, how do I give back from that? I'm not ready to do anything because I was grieving. And I learned so much from that experience. Like you said, you know, being unemotional and knowing when to pivot. Girl, it's 15 years later.
Yeah.
That's why I'm unemotional and I've learned how to pivot because I've made all those mistakes. I used to literally sit as the only woman in the boardroom and people tell me, Kristin, I can see your emotions on your face. Like, I had to watch my face. I'm like, that's my face. You know, like, what do you mean? You can see my emotions. Like, you're making me mad. Like, you're tearing me down, right? And I had to fight so hard for everything that I did with that company. And let me just tell you, just because I had a seat at the table didn't mean that I felt like I was at the table all the time, right? Things happened to me where my position was given up. I was COO to start. And then it was basically like, all right, we're gonna fire the now CEO. We're gonna put him in your role, Kristin. So that's where he fits most. What do you want to do?
I want my role.
What role do you want to do?
And this is just on a random day?
This is just, they sat me down. We're going to give so-and-so the COO role. It's time to think about what you want to do for the company. I'm like, what do you mean what do I want to do for the company? I've been doing everything for like the last 3 years. Like, how do I pinpoint what a role is? I don't even think I belong here, right? So I had all of that doubt on myself, all that shadow, all the imposter syndrome, and then here they're telling me that I actually invalidated in that, and that it's so easy to get rid of my position, but it was a blessing. You know why? Because we created a position called product, which is now known in tech. But product is basically a non-technical person very often overseeing the product, making sure that the product matches the business. And so what it did is it taught me to look at business from that lens, and it taught me how to communicate business needs to technical teams. So it was a blessing in disguise, but that was really hard for me, right? The other thing that happened, I got my salary negotiated for me. Yeah. I was told, hey, Kristin, congratulations, got your raise. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I look at my financial model that shows what everyone's making, you know, like what money's coming in, what money's going out, drastically different salaries for co-founders. Wow. And when I said, I recognize so-and-so had negotiated my salary, like, In what world does this happen? Oh, I'm sorry. It's already been approved at the board level.
Now let's talk about it. Let's get into this. Why? Like, why is that? Like, why?
Because the boards is the whole thing, right? When you have a corporation.
Because men have been used to doing business without women, and they would like to. Some of them would like to keep it that way, right? And so they're not used to women stepping in, and it's kind of like if they can get away with something, they can.
They're gonna
like
try. At
a
least,
lot of
yeah.
times, women aren't getting paid the same amount of money. You know why? Because we're not asking for it. And the other person on the other side of the table who just negotiated a much higher salary for someone who was lower qualified, you walk in that room, you're not asking for much, they're not coaching you and saying, that guy just asked for 20,000 more and he's less qualified than you, I would ask for a little bit more. They say, oh yeah, getting her at like half the market price.
Yeah.
Because it can happen, right?
It's the
I
culture.
wasn't asking questions. I wasn't asking questions because I felt like I didn't belong in the room.
Yeah.
I wasn't asking questions of when am I going to get a salary increase. I wasn't asking questions of like who is this person? Why are we moving him into a different role?
You were just on edge
I wasn't
every
in that
day.
conversation.
Yeah.
I was a co-founder. I
Yeah.
built that company, and yet I wasn't in the room when those conversations happened.
Wow.
Very easily happened without me, and I still, looking back, it's easy to be mad. Right? But in the moment, I was still just like, oh, I guess I don't really belong here, so I'm not in those rooms.
What advice would you give to a woman or a female like in a specific position like that, like right now within her
Find
career?
a mentor. Find someone who has walked your shoes, even if they're one step ahead of you. You can learn so much from other people's experiences, right? And so especially when it comes to negotiation or looking at contracts or like really advocating for ourselves, having someone that's on your side that you can confide in and say, hey, this is what just happened. This is what I got offered. What do you think about that? She doesn't know the answer. She's going to go to her network and she's going to find the answer because we help each other.
Yeah. I was just going
Right?
to say, like, when you were talking about that story, like, you shared some of that stuff with me on some of our calls. And it was like a light bulb, like, oh, that type of stuff can happen?
It can. And a lot worse.
And
right?
a lot worse.
I've had a conversation with a female founder who was raising money. This investor reached out to her, said, I want to learn more about your business. It was on a Zoom call, because that's how we do calls these days, On a Zoom call, there were like 5 investor guys. She's in the middle of her pitch. One of them fell asleep and audibly was snoring to the fact where everyone noticed. And then they're like, hey, and he's like, oh, sorry, I had a big lunch. Do you think that would ever happen to a male?
No, never.
Pitching?
And
Never.
this is the
Someone
safe
falling
space.
asleep and audibly snoring?
Never.
Like, that happens. There's so many things that can happen. So the best thing that we can do is find mentors and educate ourselves on how to advocate for ourselves and how we can move forward and how we can build these businesses. And it's having that confidence. It's saying, you come from industry, Kayla, like you can absolutely build this company.
Yeah.
You can go and work with these technical teams, right? You just have to learn the skills of how to be able to do so. And you have to be able to protect yourself and know that you belong there. So if you understand that you belong there, then you're gonna advocate for yourself more. So it's also getting out of our own heads and saying, I belong here.
Yeah.
This is for me. I'm going to do this 'cause I'm a badass.
Yeah.
And stand out of my way. If you're not going to help me, get out.
Get out of my way. And you really helped me to see that I could have that attitude.
Yeah.
Because
That
like
makes me
coming
happy.
into, no, seriously, because you helped me to understand the landscape. You helped me to understand like the things that I needed to do because I didn't have to know everything. I just had to know certain things with the role that I played.
But
you
you thought going in you needed to know everything for you to be capable of doing it.
Yeah.
For women.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. We're so used to like, okay,
If I'm not 100% qualified, then I'm not qualified.
then I'm not
right?
qualified. And so you helped me to understand that, also to understand the landscape that, okay, it's not just about like building this. You're building a product, but you are building a company.
Yeah.
And when you start to raise money or you start to hire people, all that kind of stuff, you change it from an LLC to a corporation, like boards come involved, everyone's involved, and you can end up with no company if you're not careful with how you build your company.
Yeah.
And so that's been like a lifesaver for me because I'm like, I'm crossing my T's and dotting my I's when it comes to like all of my agreements. I'm not playing.
Yeah.
And then who are the women that can be transparent about their story, because we
Yes.
see a lot of
Yes.
people on IG that are like, branding books, buy this branding workbook, buy this, and they're telling all these tips, and it's like, no way, there's no way that that's all that you did.
You have to trust where the information is coming from. And
Yeah.
typically you're going to want to look for someone who has been successful and talks about mistakes. So if
Talks
they're
about
always talking
mistakes.
about sunny skies and rainbows, that's not authentic.
It doesn't
like
happen
life
like that.
is not always sunshine and rainbows. You were talking about earlier going through the muck, right? We have to go through the muck to appreciate when it's like clear and beautiful,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if we don't go through the struggles, we can't appreciate the triumphs and the
Yeah.
success. And so being transparent like that, we need more of, because there's so many misconceptions with startups, tech, raising money. And I learned that by opening up myself to be able to support others going through the journey. And in doing so, in giving back, I received so much more in return by meeting people like yourself, now you, right? And getting these opportunities.
Yeah.
But I think it's very important to the point you just mentioned about like giving back and also sharing knowledge, because
Yeah.
from this conversation, I can attest to like some of the things that you have been Kayla's like mentor on, and like have provided resources, information for her, not knowingly, like until this conversation now, like she has equally shared the same advice or like
Yeah.
tactics with me and like
I
my
have?
business. Yeah.
Aw.
Or just providing information
It is
about
like
of how
that.
like things are
Yeah.
possible, like the
yeah.
things
But that's how
about
it should be, right? We should be
Yeah.
able to share information to help each other, boost each other up.
Yeah, like I definitely didn't know about being like where you say like you could be a COO in a role and still have things like taken from you and things
Yeah.
like that, like
Yeah.
crossing your T's, dotting your I's. We've had multiple conversations
Yes.
about that, and just positioning yourself like legally
Yeah.
when creating or joining or starting a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that.
No, I'm so happy that it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
flowing.
Yeah.
I've always been that girl though. I've always
But
been the
a
girl
lot of
that's
people
like,
are not like that.
No.
A lot of people are not like that.
Well, that's why you got to surround yourself with people that are.
Yeah.
There are people like that. So you have to be really careful about who you spend your time with.
Yeah,
You know, and you have to be
absolutely.
really careful about who you share your ideas with too. So one thing that's a big misconception when you have any kind of an idea for a company or a business is, I can't tell anyone, especially if you're going to raise money, right? I'm not going to tell anyone because they're going to steal my idea.
Okay.
Someone's going to take it and steal it from me. That is a lie. No one is ever going to steal your idea, because at the end of the day, it's not about the idea, it's about the person, it's about the execution. So
That's
someone
true.
can have an idea to help creatives get paid faster, but if they don't have the experience they have, they're not going to execute it like you. So it's not the
Absolutely.
idea, it's you. It's the team that you have around you. It's how you are really bringing people, you know, to your mission and to your cause.
That's so true.
Right? And it's not the idea. And so when I say that, the caveat is you also don't want to be sharing your idea with people that are going to put you down.
Yeah.
Right? There's people that support you, and there's people that are neutral, and there's people that don't support you. So neutral, they're going to be like, cool, that's awesome. The supportive ones, that's really who you want to talk to, and you want to stay away from the negative Nancy's, right? The people that are like, you can't do that. What do you mean? No one gets funded if they're not technical.
Yeah.
You know,
Gotta
you
stay
can't
away
raise
from-
money.
Yeah, and you know, in that, the whole emotional thing, I want to circle back on the emotional thing, because all the terms, emotions, feelings, passion, I think that like I'm still trying to figure out like which is which. And I feel like my passion, my emotions, my feelings about something a lot of times come from, I'm starting to be like, this is my intuition. This
Yeah.
is not all just me being a crybaby. Like, yeah, I'm crying because it was okay for me to use my tears. Maybe you guys were told don't ever cry, and I think for a
Yeah.
lot of males it was like don't cry. And so it's not that they don't have feelings; it's that they were taught not to
Express them.
express
show
them. And so
Yeah.
it's gotten to the point where it doesn't even pop up, because it's like, we're not doing that. I ain't never done that, you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, like, even in my company now, there's things that happen, things that are said, moves that are made, and I'm like, that doesn't feel right. And it tugs at my emotions because it feels shady, or it feels like, it just feels shady, right? So what would you say to those kind of things of like, I think obviously I have to, when something happens and I'm immediately feel like emotional about it or protective or something like that, I feel like I definitely have to calm down and then make a decision. But what's the way to ensure that, you know, I'm not, I guess, looking at the long term of my company versus the short term. Like, okay, this person is kind of shady, or I don't really like how they're showing up, but maybe I just need to get over that for the moment because they provide these skills or something. Like, is there ever like a one answer for that, or is it just like how do you know how to make these kind of decisions?
I would say trust your intuition. If someone feels shady, do some digging. So you can always get references on people that you're working with. You can look at their portfolios. You can talk to people that they've worked with before. You can talk to your mentors. So say, hey, is this something normal? Are these terms right?
Yeah.
You know, is this how this partnership should go? And just kind of leaning on your support team to be able to work through that. Don't always think that it's all on yourself.
Okay.
Right? But
Yeah.
keep cultivating those people around you
Yeah.
that are going to support you up and, you know, be there for you and help you reach a logical decision. And then
Yeah.
also try not to make any really big decisions in the moment. Unless you have to, right? Unless
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, there's a difference between reacting to something and like having a response or needing to react to something. If you don't have to provide a response in that moment, take a couple minutes, take a breather, step away, call someone, write down the pros and cons, you know, and really evaluate it. But if you're looking at something from a skill set level and you don't like or you're not jiving with the person, someone else has that skill set. You know, you never need someone. They may think or make you think that you need them, but you can always find someone.
Yeah, and we always talk about the word grace, like
Yeah.
giving yourself grace,
Oh, gosh.
just as women, of how we're just naturally every day fulfilling these roles. Like our last interviewer, I was like, oh, what are you doing for the rest of the day? She's like, oh, I'm headed back to work. And then she's like, oh, I have something to do with my husband. It's like, from the second we wake up, the second we go to sleep.
I just started a new book last night. It's called like Laziness Does Not Exist, I think is the title of it. And I got through like the first 2 chapters and I'm like, yes, I cannot wait to read
finish it?
this.
Laziness
So
does
the
not
whole
exist.
like thought of laziness and the reason that we overwork ourselves is because society has like programmed us to think the only way we can be successful is to outwork ourselves. And so it's like ingrained in what we've picked up from our
Yeah.
parents or our families, or for me, as an example, working extra hard because I didn't want to be on the other side of the tracks, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm a workaholic. Now I find I have to really struggle to have work-life balance because I am an overachiever. And when I'm idle, like let's say I work 10 hours today and I'm sitting on the couch idle, I'm guilty. I'm feeling guilty and lazy.
So it's my favorite movie. It's
Which is
called
wrong.
Eat, Pray, Love.
Yes.
And in the it's this one quote in there where a French guy is like, "Oh, you're just saying that because you're American," and also the cultural difference of like how us as Americans we just move. We think we have to do every single thing.
Yeah.
And it's this French quote of how they live by every single day about it's the power of doing nothing. And like how they embody that and how they live in that.
Yeah.
Whether it's just like, oh, you want to take a nap? Take a nap.
Yeah.
You're tired. You want to eat pasta tonight because
Yeah.
that's what you're craving? Do it.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
It's time we unhustle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm starting a Women of TmrO book club because you said laziness does not exist, and then last Genevieve said Welcome Home. That's a book that she's reading that sounded really good. Okay, so I feel like I definitely want to ask this. What is your daily, weekly, monthly like ritual for like keeping your emotional health, mental health, whatever it is, like
Oh, work in progress. If I told you right now, you'd be like, Krista, take care of yourself. So meditation is really big for me, really taking that time to sit in stillness and to try to clear my mind. That's really big. Surrounding myself with people that boost me up more than people that drain my energy
Yeah.
is really good. Making sure that even if I am working extra hard, I'm taking some time to step away from my computer, step away from social media, right? If I don't post for 2 days, I don't beat myself up over it. I
Yeah.
actually made it a thing where I don't really post on social media on Saturday and Sundays to give myself that like
Just
Yeah.
step away. But it's always like I'm not exercising as much as I should right now. I'm not eating the way that I like to. Those are always a work in progress because again, I'm still in this hustle and I'm trying to get out of it, but it's so hard to retrain yourself to look at your day better. So if I said there's anything that I'm always striving to work on, it's time management. I did get this new planner though, so I'm really excited about it. It organizes like day by day.
Oh, nice.
Tracks your water and your sleep.
So you have to. Is it a digital planner or is it a write-in?
It's a write-in. I got to write in.
I was just talking the other day. Yeah. I barely know how to write anymore. Like, I swear, I don't know how to write.
Well, now there's like the Remarkable, right? And it like translates your handwriting. And
I think it's because I'm so used to typing and like. When you write, you have to write the letter versus clicking the button for that letter. And so my mind is moving so fast and I'm like not finishing the word before I'm trying to get the other word out.
Yeah.
I was like, what's happening to me? I gotta figure that out. Because I've been journaling more and that's how I've noticed I can't write.
Journaling, that's definitely, that goes hand in hand with my meditation.
Yeah, that helps me a lot.
Me too. I'm woo-woo. I'm so woo-woo, stuff like that. So
that's good. Journaling and crying.
Yeah.
Because I don't even think of crying anymore as like sad. I think of it just like let it go.
Expression.
I just want to let go the emotion, like let it flow out of me. Like if some tension arises out of a situation, I literally just cry it out.
It's a whole segment, journaling and crying.
Yeah,
literally.
We need it. A mental health segment.
So I know the podcast, ours is called Women of TmrO. We talk a lot about where you are now, but where would you say you would see yourself 2 to 3 years from now if you could? And in all aspects.
Continuing what I'm doing. So right now my mission is helping non-technical founders really go from idea to having a product, specifically underrepresented founders. And so my vision for myself is I like to visualize where I am in a couple of years. My visualization is I'm in this huge ballroom. I'm up on a podium. I have everyone that I love and all these faces of founders that I've helped through the years. And they're all there to celebrate not just Tech AF and what we're doing, but themselves. And it's just like this whole thing of love. So it's really helping more people
I can
establish,
see
that. I can be a tech founder. Like if I can in some way help move the needle on the data, that's what I like to do. So here's the data for those who don't know. Last year, out of $330 billion that was invested in VC capital, 2% went to women. And any other minority group is going to be, however you slice and dice it, is 2% or less. So if you look at Black women, it actually rounds to 0.
Wow.
You look at Latina women, it's about 2%. You look at women itself, it's 2%, right? There's all of these groups that are just shrunk down, where the majority of all of this $330 billion is going to a single majority, white men.
Wow.
Single. Like $330 billion. 2% of that's a great amount of money, but imagine what 50 or 60 or 70% of that can mean.
Wow.
Yeah, can we just get 50?
I know. So if I can have any effect on moving that needle and helping put the money into the founders that I think really should be out there.
You're doing it. I mean, because TmrO is going to be a unicorn. Tech AF is going to be a unicorn. And you're going to see that happen. I can totally
I'll call myself the Unicorn Factory.
Unicorn Factory. Yes. Okay, so tell everyone where they can find you and learn more about your company, because I'm a whole fan.
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
So my social sites, LinkedIn. LinkedIn's first, Kristin Slink. Then Instagram's kind of my favorite. I do a lot of reels and fun stuff. So that's really where my creativity shines. So my handle's @IamTechAF, and then my website is www.iamtechaf.com. So I have a 16-week program. I walk entrepreneurs through it. It's all video instruction. We meet weekly as a group. I team them up with peers every week to review all of their deliverables. They present it. We do feedback sessions. We do in-person activities, and so it's just really, they're guided all the way from thinking of an idea all the way to when they're ready to start building the product with tech teams.
I love
that. Makes me so happy, because everyone has a chance to push through their fears.
Yeah. And it's a community. At the end of the day, we're helping each other through it. And so all past people are still involved in the community and now serve as mentors, right? So it's really, it's paying it forward as we go. And I also hope to have a fund someday to be able to put some money to
Oh,
these
you will, for
ideas
sure.
as
For
well.
sure.
So, you know, if anyone's an investor that's watching, hit
Yeah.
Oh my
Awesome.
God.
This was great.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you so much
so
for having me.
much.
This
We
was
got to link
fun.
up again.
Yeah,
We got more to
absolutely.
come.
Yes.
Okay, we're all done.
Yes.
Killed it.
Yay.